The first 5 miles passed in total silence except for the creak of saddle leather and the occasional snort of the mare. The girl rode like someone born to it, straight-backed, knees easy. Tom walked ahead, hat brim low against the sun, feeling every eye from the scattered ranches they passed boring into his back. By the time the sun bled orange across the Peloncillos, his boots were raw and his conscience was raw. What in God's name was he going to do with her? He had bought her freedom with money he didn't have to spare, and now she was his responsibility. No, not his property, never that again. But the law and every rancher within 100 miles would see it differently. At a seep spring under cottonwoods he stopped. He filled his canteen, offered it up to her without meeting her eyes. She took it, drank deep, then spoke for the first time. Her voice was low, husky from disuse, and the Apache words came like music he had forgotten he knew. "You wasted your money, white man. I will not warm your bed. I will slit your throat first." Tom sat on his heels, rolled a cigarette he didn't light. "I don't want my throat slit, and I don't want my bed warmed. I just want to get home to my daughter without either of us dying of stupidity. After that, you can ride any direction the wind takes you." She studied him for a long time. "Your woman is dead." It wasn't a question. He nodded once. "Then you are alone," she said. "Not pity, just fact." "Reckon so." Another silence. Somewhere a coyote yipped. "My name is Nellie," she said finally. "It means, one who carries burdens. My mother gave me that name the day the bluecoats burned our wiki up. She did not live to see if it was true." Tom felt the weight of that name settle on his shoulders like a saddle on a half-broke horse. "Folks call me Tom. My daughter is Ruth. She's 7. Lost her front teeth and most of her fear of thunderstorms." Nellie looked away toward the darkening mountains. "I had a little sister once. She was 6 when Delgado took us. He sold her in Sonora. I do not know if she lives." Tom had no words for that. He only handed her the rest of his jerky and started walking again. They made cold camp that night in a dry wash. Tom gave her his bedroll, took the saddle blanket for himself. He woke before dawn to find her sitting against a rock, knees drawn up, watching him with the stillness of a deer that knows one wrong move means death. "I am deciding," she said softly, "whether to kill you while you sleep or to wait and see what kind of man buys a woman and then gives her his bed." Tom scratched his beard. "Take your time. I'm a heavy sleeper." A ghost of something, maybe amusement, flickered across her face and was gone. By the time they reached the ranch 2 days later, Tom's feet were bloody and his heart was raw as an open wound. The place wasn't much: adobe house, pole corral, a windmill that groaned like a dying man. But it was home. Ruth was on the porch shelling peas with old Jesus, the vaquero who had stayed on after Mary died because someone had to keep the cattle from starving and the child from forgetting how to laugh. Ruth saw the horse first, then the woman on it, then her father walking like a man twice his age. She dropped the bowl and ran. "Papa!" Tom caught her up, buried his face in her braids that still smelled of the lye soap Mary had made. Over Ruth's shoulder he watched Nellie dismount with the fluid grace of a panther and stand uncertainly, hands loose at her sides, ready for whatever came next. Ruth twisted to look. "Who's that?" Tom set her down. "This is Miss Nellie. She'll be staying with us a while." Ruth, who had never in her life met an Indian woman who wasn't selling olives at the county fair, walked straight up to Nellie and offered her small grubby hand exactly the way her mother had taught her to greet visitors. Nellie stared at the outstretched hand like it might explode. Then, slowly, she took it. Ruth grinned, gap-toothed and fearless. "You're pretty. Do you like cornbread?" That night Nellie slept in the bunkhouse with a loaded Winchester across her lap. Tom did not sleep at all. Weeks turned into months. Nellie worked like a man possessed, milked cows before dawn, rode fence lines with Jesus, broke 2 half-wild horses no one else would touch. She spoke little, but when she did her words carried weight. She taught Ruth Apache words for the stars and how to track a mountain lion by the smell of its urine. She taught Tom how to doctor a calf with pine pitch and yarrow when the vet was 100 miles away. In return, Ruth taught her English curse words and how to make biscuits light enough to float off the plate. Tom taught her how to read, using Ruth's primer and the Sears Roebuck catalog, sounding out words under the lantern until her eyes burned. At first the neighbors came sniffing around, some out of curiosity, some hoping Tom had bought himself a concubine they might borrow. Will Carver was the worst, riding in drunk one Sunday with two of his hands, claiming he wanted to see if the wild mare had been broken yet. Nellie met them in the yard with Tom's Henry rifle steady on her shoulder. "Ride away, mister," she said in English clear as a bell. "Or I will put you off that horse the fast way." Carver laughed, but something in her eyes made his laughter die. They left. After that the visit stopped. Winter came early that year. A blue norther blew down from Colorado and froze the stock tanks solid. One night the temperature dropped so fast the pines cracked like rifle shots. Tom found Nellie in the barn at midnight, wrapped in a horse blanket, shaking so hard her teeth rattled. "I have not been warm since they took me," she whispered when he draped his coat around her shoulders. He built up the fire in the cookstove until the kitchen glowed red, made her sit with her feet in a basin of hot water the way Mary used to do for Ruth. Nellie cried then, silent tears sliding down the sharp angles of her face. Tom pretended not to notice, just kept adding wood until the ice melted from her soul as well as her boots. Spring brought grass tall enough to hide a calf and the first real laughter any of them had heard in years. Ruth turned 8. They had a party, Jesus on the fiddle, neighbors who had decided maybe Tom Harlan wasn't crazy after all. Nellie wore a dress Ruth had sewn from flour sacks dyed blue with indigo, and when she smiled it was like the sun breaking through monsoon clouds. That night Tom found her on the porch staring at the Milky Way. "I dreamed of my mother last night," she said. "She told me I carried my burden far enough. That it was time to set it down." Tom leaned against the post, hat in his hands. "You could ride out tomorrow. I'd give you the best horse and money to get wherever you want." She turned to him, eyes soft in the moonlight. "And where would I go, Tom Harlan? My people are scattered. My sister is lost. Everything I had is ashes." She stepped closer until he could smell sage in her hair. "For the first time since I was a child, I woke up this morning and did not wish to die. Do you know what that is worth?" He started to answer, but she laid 2 fingers against his lips. "You paid $300 for a woman who bites," she said. "But you gave me back my name. My laughter. My future. That is a debt I can never repay." "You don't owe me anything," he said roughly. "Yes," she whispered. "I do." She kissed him then, not the kiss of a bought woman, but the kiss of a free one choosing where her heart would live. Years later, old men in Lordsburg would still talk about the day Tom Harlan paid $300 for a wild Apache girl everyone said would kill him in his sleep. They would shake their heads and say Delgado had been right after all. She did bite. But only the man she married, and only when he asked very, very nicely. And on the ranch in the Mimbres Valley, 3 little girls with their mother's midnight eyes and their father's stubborn chin grew up learning that the measure of a person isn't the price someone once put on them, but the love they choose to give when they are finally free to choose. Sometimes, on quiet evenings when the cottonwoods whisper along the creek, you can still hear laughter drifting across the grass, Ruth's bright giggle, Nellie's low husky joy, and Tom's deeper rumble underneath it all. The wind carries it east toward Lordsburg, past the spot where a coffle once stood and a slave trader once laughed. If you listen close, it almost sounds like someone is saying, "Enjoy, cowboy. She bites. And she was worth every damn dollar."